Welcome back to the conversation. It is with you and me and Sue Plumtree. How you doing, Sue?
Wonderfully well.
You love this, don't
Oh
you?
God,
Do you
I
wanna come
do.
visit me
I
every
do.
week? We should do a Sue and Bird.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. I love
The
it.
wisdom of Sue and Bird. So here's that question. What had to end for a beginning?
Well, the obvious one is my marriage. Do you know, actually, it's a good question. Let me think about it rather than be obvious. I think it self-delusions, a lot of self-perceptions. In a way, it's about dying to be reborn. Do you know what I mean? The old me to become a new me, so I can create something new. Many relationships had to end for new ones to begin. I tell you that I have this woman who approached me and came a few times to my meetups. And she couldn't let go. They were divorced. She was divorced. But that she was still clinging. And the husband was also clinging. And they were afraid to let go of each other. And I said, you can't start a new relationship, have true love in your life, as long as you're still hanging on to the past. So you have to empty the bucket so new things can come into the bucket.
I find this really interesting, Sue, and somebody said to me the other day, and we were talking about the marathon actually, and one of my amazing friends who's a doctor, and he's amazing. And he rang me and he said, he was talking about himself personally, and he said, Bird, he said, I've withdrawn.
Oh.
What a great word. Because actually I know how to action that. Letting go, I said to him, I'm like, how do I do that? And I always find this concept of letting go.
Yes.
How do we let go, Sue?
Okay, I can answer that because I struggled with that one for years when people say, just let go. And I said, well, I would if I could, I just don't know how.
Yeah.
Okay, you let go by refocusing, by doing something else. So, okay, I'll give you an example. Imagine you are going to the doctor and you're having some tests done. And the doctor says, come back in 2 months' time and he'll give you the results. What are you going to do? Sit there and wait for the results? You can't. You refocus on your life and do what you have to do. Your children, your husband, your job, whatever it takes. And soon that will recede. When the time comes, you'll refocus and deal with whatever comes up. But you let go by doing something different, whatever that may be.
I want to go into another part, and we were talking about this, is you've got this wonderful belief about health and relationships.
I do, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I gave a talk at an annual conference for Diva of Color, and their theme was mental health. So I put together a talk linking the quality of our relationships with the quality of our health. Now, I said earlier that in my marriage to Jim, I was in denial, pretending that everything was okay. But I could not fool my body. And so I started developing, I've always been very healthy all my life, but then I started to develop pain, severe, I can't tell you, excruciating pains. They would stay for a few months and then disappear, and then another one would come up, and it was just horrible. I had bouts of clinical depression, which were treated with Valium, and it's a miracle I didn't become addicted. I started comfort eating. Lots of comfort eating. I grew fat, followed by thinking, I can't do this, I have to lose all this weight. And I decided not to go on a normal diet, but I became bulimic, the eating disorder. So I'm lucky to be alive. And all these kinds of... But when I left my marriage, my health improved over the years. And now, at the ripe old age of 73, I feel wonderful, better than I ever have in my whole life. So, and I think that's because I'm happy. I'm happy in my work. I'm happy in my friendships. I'm happy in with Paul above everything, the love of my life. And my health reflects it. And so, because I was intrigued as I was preparing for the talk, I was intrigued in thinking, is it just me? So I did research. And there is masses of research to prove the connection.
Your relationship with Paul, how did you fall in love? And allow yourself that courage to fall in love?
It started with falling in like. I liked him. So one of the questions people, or people will say things like, oh, by the time you figure out that it was the wrong person, it's too late. And I'm saying, oh, no. You can find out really early in the relationship. But before you can do that, you need to know what your deepest needs in a relationship are.
Their needs or your own?
Well, starting with me, I didn't know him. So I had to know, because when I was married to Jim, I had no idea. I just knew I didn't get whatever it is that I wanted or needed, but I just didn't really know what it was. Now I know. And I liked him because the way he was talking about his children. He left his marriage when the children were very young. But he traveled miles and miles to be there for them, do things with them. And the way he talks about his mates, and it's clear that he is a kind, loving, caring man. Because you can learn a lot about how people talk about other people. Oh, and he has close relationships with his family. Now, that is something that is a question of luck, because there are dysfunctional families. But you don't have to become dysfunctional. You can actually create your own family circle with your friends. His children are young men that any father would be proud of. So, and the way he talks about them. So that's one area. He likes making things. He is involved in a charity for severely disabled people, and so he has a life that I admire. And that was something. And then, so that is his the background. Then the way he listened to me from the very beginning. And he remembered what I said the next time. So it wasn't just putting it on. Because, and this is the important thing, people will treat you sooner or later the way they treat other people. So if they treat you like a princess and talk about other people like they're rubbish, sooner or later they will treat you the same way. So those are clues, you might say. It's an accumulation of clues. And that is what I was putting together. Plus, he's a great cook. I mean, that kind of helps.
I call it feeding love.
The other thing is that I have a deep need for tenderness. And he is tactile and affectionate. And that I didn't realize how much I missed it in my marriage. I was hungry for that kind of affection. And so many of my deepest needs were being met. In the early days, I was going, check, check, check. And, and that continues. It continues. And then he had the need to look after me. Now, this is interesting because I had been independent for 10 years. I was used to looking after myself. But I was wise enough to know that there are bits that I have to let go of and let him look after me.
Do we need to learn?
Yes.
You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yes.
We need to learn how to be loved as well, don't we?
Yes, we do. Everybody says, oh, I want so much to be loved. And then when it comes, they don't know how to accept it.
How can you be a strong woman? can you be an independent woman and surrender yourself into love?
I believe absolutely you can. And that's only because you're strong, and only because the love is reciprocal. Meaning you don't give and you give and you give, and they go, oh yeah, right, okay, sorry, come back. It's a give and take. It's being interdependent, which is what Paul and I are. So we give things to each other that the other person values. And we appreciate each other.
So, and I say this quite a lot, you learn to love that person how they want to be loved.
Yes.
Not how you want to love them, is that right?
It's absolutely right. But that comes from observing, paying attention, and sometimes asking. But then comes the thing that with Jim, I needed to be right at all costs. It was like my survival depended on it. And not just I had to be right, he had to admit to being wrong.
I agree. Yes, I get it. Yeah.
There is no such thing with Paul. This, if we disagree, we are not clones, I'm curious. I want to know why we disagree. And then I learn something. We learn from each other. And I'm more than happy to change my mind, and so is he. We're not invested in being right. So we're easy with each other because we know who we are, because we are each strong people.
Okay, here it is, the 7 what to 1 who.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
7 questions,
okay.
Beginning with what? That are the essence of you, Sue. So, like I say every week, it's not about you and I. It's about you, my darling. It's about what do you believe to be true. You're going to hear me ask Sue these questions that she doesn't know. And I know people don't believe me, Sue, but they don't. My guests never know. They are relative to them, and they're relative to the time as well.
Okay.
Sue's nervous, like, oh my God. And then you're going to hear Sue answer the questions, and that's where your magic begins, because you might not even agree with the question that I've asked, or think, oh my God, Bird, you can't ask that. And I do, I dare. I'm very courageous. Do you know what? Because Sue hit the nail on the head. I'm curious about why you do what you do. And why I choose not to, or I choose to do something, and it's a choice. It really is a choice of how we are responsible, how we respond to how we behave. So here is number 1. What do you expect from your loved ones?
I think the first word that comes to mind is respect. You probably would have thought love, but no, a respect, liking. I expect them to take me seriously, except when I'm playing the fool. I do sometimes. I expect them to be there for me when I need them.
And that's hard. What if they're not there for you because circumstances, or what does that mean?
It depends. There's a context. So if they're always there for you when you need them, but on that one occasion they can't be, then, life happens. If they're never there for you when you need them, Jim is a good example, then there is a deficit in the bank balance, in the emotional bank balance. But when they are in credit, and Paul is in such credit, and he has always been there for me, and his being there for me manifests itself in so many different ways. It could just be a hug, a reassurance, doing something for me. I had an accident a few years back, and I hurt my ribs. And I thought, that was in the early days of our relationship. And I thought, maybe not tell him, because I never used to tell Jim about these things. But I thought, we're going to meet tomorrow, he'll know, because I'm in pain. So I sent him a text, and I went to the doctor for painkillers. And on my way back, he was there to see that I was okay. Even though we were supposed to meet the following day, he was there. And I burst into tears. I was like, you came, oh my God, you came. I still feel moved that he actually